As reality shows go, American Pickers is a pretty laid-back one. The concept of two guys driving around America to discover hidden treasure.
How do you get along with all the guys? Because you're like the female part of it.
Yeah.
How do you get along with them?
Well, I mean, they treat me like their little sister.
The FBI burst into Danielle Colby's bedroom at 5 a.m. by breaking down the door. In less than 20 minutes, what initially seemed like a routine financial investigation suddenly took a dramatic turn. Instead of the usual items like clothing makeup or tax documents, they uncovered disturbing truths along with solid evidence, powerful enough to shake an entire nation. So what exactly has Danielle Colby been hiding? And what was inside that room that even made seasoned FBI agents tremble? The answers lie behind the door on the second floor. 1. From television manager to investigation focus. Danielle Colby didn't break into the television industry through degrees or marketing strategies. It was her somewhat eccentric personality that paved the way. Born and raised in Davenport, Iowa, she once worked in the burlesque scene, a vintage-style performance art, and also founded the fashion brand 4 Miles to Memphis. However, the real turning point came when Danielle took on the role of office manager at the antique shop, Antique Archaeology, owned by Mike Wolfe. From there, she was brought onto the show American Pickers, initially just to answer phone calls and manage the schedule. No one expected that the only woman in the crew who didn't drive around or go picking with the others would end up becoming the show's standout figure. With her pin-up-inspired style, tattoo-covered body, and no-nonsense attitude when working with her 2 male co-stars, Danielle gradually came to be seen as a new kind of female icon in the world of reality television. Her fan page quickly surpassed 500,000 followers after just 2 seasons, along with a flood of invitations from designers, art magazines, and even international touring groups. From someone working behind the scenes, she became the one standing in the spotlight. However, the camera lights never reached the shadows. The more famous she became, the more silent she grew about her personal life, something unusual for a public figure. Danielle rarely disclosed anything about her family, avoided talking about her private life or any romantic relationships, and remained completely silent about her connection to the show's 2 main stars, Mike Wolfe and Frank Fritz. This led to growing speculation. Several former crew members have shared that the relationship between Colby and Mike seemed to go beyond the usual boundaries. They said she often entered Mike's private room off-limits to everyone else, and that the two would speak in code or communicate through devices not linked to the internal system. When Frank Fritz unexpectedly left the show in 2020, the official explanation was health-related issues. But not long after Frank himself admitted that things weren't the same anymore, and that someone had completely changed the atmosphere behind the scenes. Notably, in a brief interview before his passing, when asked about his relationship with Colby, Frank responded cryptically, "I honestly don't know. Sometimes I felt like an outsider and someone really wanted it that way." In September 2024, Frank Fritz died under unclear circumstances following complications from a stroke. The medical report cited prolonged cerebral circulatory failure as the cause, but couldn't explain why his condition deteriorated so suddenly within just 12 hours, even though he had been talking normally with his caregiver the night before. The initial investigation found nothing suspicious until the FBI received an anonymous email from someone who called themselves the one who lived in Colby's shadow. The message was only a few lines long. "If you want the truth about Frank, check the upstairs bedroom. Don't believe the image she's trying to sell you. There are things in there that shouldn't exist." The final line raised particular concern among agents. The mask is no longer silent. The FBI immediately expanded the investigation, tracking all of Danielle Colby's financial transactions, communication history, and movements. They uncovered a series of small money transfers from a company called Orchid Vale LLC, an entity of unknown origin registered in Luxembourg. Danielle's computer had once connected to a server located in Reykjavik, Iceland, part of a private encryption network commonly used by Western secret societies to exchange information. Still, none of this was enough until the investigative team discovered that the security camera in Colby's home had a long blind spot, exactly where the bedroom was located. That was when the official search warrant was signed and issued. The FBI knew full well the upstairs room wasn't just where she slept. It was where the truth was hidden. 2. The raid and the second-floor door. 5:00 a.m. The air in Iowa remained chilly, despite the onset of summer. Mist clung to the matte black FBI SUV parked along a quiet street in LeClaire. No sirens blared, no lights flashed, only the soft sound of agents' footsteps echoed as they dispersed in formation. Everything unfolded swiftly, silently, and with precision. The task force, comprising 9 FBI agents in coordination with Homeland Security officers, carried encryption devices, 360-degree cameras, thermal sensors, and a specialist in psychological response. Danielle Colby's house sat modestly amidst a neighborhood boasting some of the highest property values in the area. From the outside, it appeared unremarkable. White walls, gray-tiled roof, a classic wooden gate, and a balcony adorned with lavender. A neighbor later remarked, "She was always quiet but never suspicious, more like someone who paints at midnight than someone plotting murder." When agents knocked, Danielle opened the door immediately, showing no signs of surprise. She wore a loosely tied long nightgown, her hair tousled, face unadorned. She neither screamed nor questioned the situation, nor did she resist. She simply remained silent and turned inward, as if she had been anticipating this moment for a long time. Agents monitored her physiological responses. Her heart rate and breathing showed no signs of panic. They found this unusual. Within 30 minutes, the ground and first floors were thoroughly inspected. Nothing illegal was discovered, but neither was everything entirely normal. A desk was arranged peculiarly aligned precisely to the north, beside a dried fern under a UV lamp. Geometric symbol. Sketches were interspersed among notebooks containing poems in French, Latin, and Old German. However, suspicions were truly confirmed when the team reached the second floor. The door at the end of the hallway leading to the master bedroom was the only one in the house secured with both mechanical and electronic locks. Danielle did not provide the code. When asked, she merely smiled and said, "If you can open it, then perhaps you should examine everything carefully." It took 18 minutes and an electromagnetic lock-picking device to breach the door. The special team immediately sensed something amiss. Inside, there were no windows, no natural light. The entire room was illuminated by a low-intensity UV lighting system. The walls were entirely covered with hand-drawn spirals, single-eye symbols, and ancient phrases. Each wall had a theme. The west was awakening, the east, initiation, the south, obscuration, and the north, where a large wooden desk stood, confrontation. At the center of the room stood a classic ebony desk atop which rested a black-painted box, sealed with wax cords and red oil paint, bearing a strange symbol, a circular spiral surrounding an eye with rays extending in 8 directions. The symbol was identified as belonging to the organization Oculus Veritas, a secret society sporadically mentioned in records from the 13th century deemed heretical by the Spanish Inquisition, and once banned from mention in France during the 18th century. Beside the box was a standing mirror with a green bronze frame which did not reflect the viewer, despite tests under various lighting conditions. Behind the mirror was a blurry black and white photograph seemingly depicting Danielle in a meditative state, sitting cross-legged before an altar, hands placed on an object obscured by a glaring light. Beneath the photo was a handwritten note. The third gate opens at 3:33 a.m. Nearby artifacts were arranged like a ceremonial altar, a glass jar containing human hair, a small bronze vessel engraved with the word vitriolum, a mysterious keyword often appearing in Hermetica manuscripts, a leather-bound book written in a hybrid of ancient Greek and Egyptian hieroglyphs, a tape recorder running continuously recording the room's atmosphere, though no one listened to it. Upon close inspection of the floor, investigators discovered a small gap near the bookshelf. Removing a wooden plank revealed a compartment containing notebooks, document bundles, and several items wrapped in stained linen. One such item was a small ebony statue depicting a bound figure mouth sewn shut with red thread, matching descriptions of the sealed testimony ritual from ancient Phrygian culture. A field agent later reported that upon holding the statue, he suddenly experienced a throat itch and was unable to speak for several minutes. An immediate psychological field analysis was conducted. The specialist assessing the space concluded that the room no longer served human habitation, but was intended for deliberate spiritual purposes, incorporating elements of cognitive control. Notably, all items were legally clean. None were identified as illegal artifacts or in violation of any laws. However, the arrangement and the documents subsequently found suggested a thought structure surpassing ordinary collecting behavior. A printed document pinned to the north wall contained a startling revelation: a list of 17 names written in symbols resembling ancient Samaritan script. Upon decoding, the names matched individuals who had worked on the American Pickers film crew, including Frank Fritz, marked in black ink with the note, "Has seen." When agents flipped through the notebook beneath the cloth on the desk, the first line written in red capital letters read, "This is not where I sleep. This is where I awaken." The entire room was sealed off. Items were labeled and coded and transported to a national analysis facility in Langley. Danielle Colby remained seated downstairs, asking no questions, requesting no lawyer, saying nothing except one final sentence before being taken away. "If you have seen it, then you should know I have kept silent as long as I could." From that moment, the investigation took a complete turn from a personal suspicion to an inquiry into forgotten knowledge. Because what the FBI found inside the bedroom was not just evidence, but a gateway to things no one was prepared to face. 3 objects that should not be here. When the FBI's field response team transported all items discovered in Danielle Colby's bedroom to the Langley headquarters for inventory, no one anticipated the necessity to consult not only archaeologists, but also experts in symbology, neuroscience, and even scholars of prohibited religions. Initially, the items were deemed peculiar, yet lawful. However, as investigations delved deeper, numerous aspects emerged that defied conventional explanations. The first item was a goat-skin scroll meticulously rolled and sealed with a wax, emitting a scent reminiscent of lilac. Upon unrolling, geographers observed that the map depicted a low hill region south of the Appalachian Range, yet it did not precisely align with any modern maps. The marked points utilized spiral symbols akin to those found in ancient Hopewell tribal tombs. According to local folklore, this area was once known as the Silent Sleep Land, a place where the deceased dreamed of the future. A black ink annotation read, "Here the third eye opens for the first time. The path to the mirror is no longer locked." Next was an ancient book written in a blend of Sanskrit and Greek, lacking a cover and bound with red thread. Its content comprised chants about reincarnated memory and the third state of consciousness. A professor from the University of Chicago remarked, "This appears to be a handwritten translation of unregistered scriptures, with several sections resembling the Rig Veda, yet focusing on self-illusion and memory fragmentation mechanisms." One passage mentioned the mirror keeper, the sole individual permitted to lock away the inner light. When the FBI conducted fingerprint analysis on the book's pages, DNA belonging to Danielle and also Frank Fritz was identified. Among the most concerning items was a 47-minute audio tape labeled ALL 0207-2024, 3:33 a.m. The recording commenced with a chant repetitive delivered in a deep female voice in an unidentified language. Around the 14-minute mark, sounds of footsteps and a door opening were heard, followed by a familiar male voice stating, "I know what you're doing. Stop." This was succeeded by silence. Then a whisper, "You saw. Now you must forget." Audio specialists confirmed it was indeed Frank Fritz's voice. More startling was the background audio wave analysis revealing irregular frequency fluctuations corresponding to gamma resonance in the prefrontal cortex, a phenomenon typically occurring during hallucinations or deep meditation. This raised suspicions that Frank had been present in the room, or at least had participated in a ritual with significant neurological effects. In the third display cabinet, illuminated under UV light, the FBI discovered a black jade statue depicting a kneeling figure, its mouth sewn shut with red thread. On the statue's back were 3 ancient Hittite hieroglyphs, which upon decoding translated to "The Silent One lives longer." An Anatolian culture expert commented, "This isn't an art piece, it's a physical embodiment of an oath." Individuals involved in Central Asian secret societies often use such statues to seal memories. Several hours after handling the statue, one of the investigating agents reported symptoms of insomnia and auditory hallucinations and required 72 hours of psychiatric hospitalization. Adjacent to the statue, experts also found a handwritten note pinned to the inner side of the cabinet door. List of those who have seen inside. It listed 12 names. 6 were members of the American Pickers filming crew. 3 were History Channel production staff. 1 was a psychiatrist who had treated Danielle. 1 was Mike Wolf. And finally, unsurprisingly, Frank Fritz. Next to his name was a crossed-out single-eye symbol accompanied by the phrase, "No longer sees." However, the most shocking piece came from financial documents. On a computer found in a hidden compartment beneath the bed, the FBI recovered an encrypted file named Orchid Vale Ledger 7Z. After decryption, it revealed a transaction history from a shell company named Orchid Vale LLC to accounts under Danielle's name totaling nearly $1.1 million over 2 years. Notably, the funds originated from a legal entity associated with Mike Wolf, concealed through multiple offshore layers in Malta, Panama, and Luxembourg. Investigations indicated that Mike Wolf had signed a reality content consulting contract worth $250,000 just days after Frank's hospitalization. In leaked email exchanges, a line read, "We need to ensure the story doesn't get more complicated. Let her handle it." While there was no direct evidence of criminal activity, the connection between finances, death, and ritual was undeniable. The final item was a black leather notebook, worn and tattered with the upper right corner scorched. The first page bore a single handwritten line, "Begin where I stop." Within, Danielle detailed each ritual, each dream, each sleepwalking episode where she reunited with those no longer alive, including Frank. One particularly lengthy passage described a recurring nightmare. Frank passing through a mirror door, then returning with bleeding eyes saying, "I saw it, but I shouldn't have." Beside this passage was a drawing of a mask mouthless featuring 2 spiral intertwined eyes, and the final line written in red ink, "If they find it, everything will begin anew." Upon concluding the evidence inventory, a senior agent from the U.S. Department of Energy invited to assist succinctly stated in a classified report, "We are no longer within the realm of criminology. We are engaging with a layer of consciousness that science has yet to define. That room doesn't merely contain objects, it is a map of a second world." From that moment onward, all definitions of truth and crime in the Danielle Colby case were irrevocably altered. 4. Oculus Veritas, the secret order and its forbidden symbol. When the spiral single-eye symbol repeatedly appeared among the artifacts and documents seized from Danielle Colby's residence, FBI agents initially assumed they were confronting a form of personal superstition or eccentric art. However, as the Smithsonian Institution's team of symbology experts began to connect the dots, a long-forgotten name from ecclesiastical libraries and European secret archives gradually surfaced. Oculus Veritas, also known as the Keeper of the Final Gaze. This name had never been mentioned in mainstream media, nor found in official academic records. Yet scattered clues from manuscripts at the Monte Cassino Monastery, uncatalogued Vatican directories to fragmented notes by philosopher Giordano Bruno suggested the covert and enduring existence of this organization for over 800 years. Oculus Veritas is believed to be a splinter group from the medieval Hermetica societies originating in post-Hellenistic Alexandria. They did not construct temples or conduct public rituals, but existed as dispersed ideological groups, uniting individuals who believed that all knowledge comes at a price, and not everyone deserves to know. The central symbol of Oculus Veritas is the spiral single eye, a gaze not directed outward but inward, delving deep into the layers of consciousness. This symbol was once strictly prohibited by the Church following the Prague 1613 incident, during which an entire monastic order experienced collective insanity after performing a ritual known as opening the eye in sleep. According to a Latin manuscript kept confidential at the French National Library, the ritual required participants to meditate in absolute darkness for 72 hours, face a mirror engraved with the single eye symbol, and consume a concoction made from ancient mugwort. A chilling coincidence the FBI discovered in Danielle's room, a replica of the Opening the Eye manuscript, along with a simulated ritual structure, a mirror illuminated with UV light to stimulate internal reflection, and an herbal tea mixture containing mugwort and the highly toxic plant belladonna, historically used in rituals dedicated to the goddess Hecate. But Danielle Colby's connection to Oculus Veritas extended beyond these items. According to international travel data reports, Danielle was present in New Orleans in late October 2018, precisely when a clandestine gathering occurred at St. Anne's Church, previously suspected of hosting illicit occult ceremonies. An independent photojournalist captured images of Danielle entering through a side door, and more intriguingly, at the same time, an ancient goatskin map vanished from Tulane University's library. The FBI confirmed that this map was found in her bedroom, marking the convergence area in Appalachia, referred to in Oculus legends as the third spiral of consciousness. Security camera footage also revealed that Danielle frequently performed meditation rituals at home before the engraved mirror at exactly 3:33 a.m., a sacred hour in occult practices often termed the boundary opening hour. Eerily, one of these recorded rituals coincided precisely with the moment Frank Fritz was confirmed dead at a care center. Abnormal brainwave activity and medical equipment alarms were triggered in Frank's room at exactly 3:33 a.m., but the cause remains unknown. A secret society researcher at the University of Bonn, Germany, described Oculus Veritas as follows: "This is not a cult. They do not worship gods or perform sacrifices. They are a living ideology transmitted from person to person like a knowledge virus. They don't need to proselytize, they just need to be seen." The unsettling fact is substantial evidence indicates that Danielle was not merely a member, but also an activator of the symbol. In confidential notes from her hidden diary, she wrote, "Not everyone should be seen, but I am the remaining eye." This raises the question, could she be one of those entrusted with safeguarding or activating a segment of concealed knowledge? Following Danielle's case, experts began re-examining dozens of documents previously classified as heretical. These texts mention the masks of perception, 7 sacred items representing different sensory layers: vision, sound, emotion, memory, language, space, and truth. Each mask is engraved with a mysterious alloy, compatible only with individuals possessing unique neural structures. A lost Vatican manuscript from 1932 states, "Each mask bearer is a gatekeeper. If the wrong door is opened, the world will never be the same." This prompts the question, which mask, if any, does Danielle possess within that system, and has she used it? Her brain data during the ritual, extracted from an EEG device she attached to herself and connected to a computer, shows that regions associated with emotion and inhibition were almost entirely deactivated, while the prefrontal cortex operated at unprecedented high frequencies, not observed in Johns Hopkins research samples. A terrifying hypothesis emerges: perhaps the suspicious behaviors, the death of Frank, the silence, the fixed ritual timing, are not the actions of a murderer, but of someone containing something greater, more dangerous from escaping. And if the theory about Oculus Veritas holds true, Danielle did not act alone. Each mask bearer is part of a circle. And what about the others? Where are they? What do they know? And is the FBI uncovering a criminal, or disrupting a delicate balance that no one has ever fully understood? 5. Danielle's journal pages not meant for anyone. Among the sealed items, there was an old leather notebook with black thread trim and a faint inscription in the bottom right corner. Per lucem per tenebras. Through light, through darkness. This notebook was tucked between ancient sketches and an embroidered cloth depicting a bleeding eye. Initially, the agents thought it was just random notes from an artist. However, when experts analyzed the handwriting and compared it with Danielle Colby's writing style, they realized it was the key to unlocking the mind of the central figure in the investigation. The notebook was encrypted using a biometric locking system. It could only be opened with Danielle's fingerprint. After obtaining a legal warrant, the FBI used sample data to access it. The notebook contained nearly 200 pages of handwritten text, mostly in Old English mixed with passages in Latin, Greek, and occasionally unidentified characters. This was no ordinary journal. It was a chronicle of psychology, rituals, and dreams spanning 7 years, documenting every ritual state and hallucination Danielle had experienced since beginning her study of deep consciousness structure. The journal began with the trembling words, Day 1. I did not choose this. It chose me. Everything began. She described waking up in the middle of the night, but still in a dream, feeling as if her body was being pulled, as though her soul had separated from her body and was moving through an endless mirror corridor. Many pages in the notebook chronicled recurring dreams. A room with 7 doors, each door bearing a different symbol. But only one door could be opened. When she opened the wrong door, Danielle found herself facing different versions of herself, crying, laughing, or dead. Particularly, there was a series of recurring dreams in June 2024, just 2 months before Frank Fritz's death. She wrote, Frank appeared, not the Frank I knew, but the Frank who had seen. He stood there, blood streaming from his eyes, holding a broken mirror. He said, I've seen what I shouldn't have, and now I can't stop looking. The journal indicated that Danielle believed the ritual mirror in her bedroom was the gateway, where those who gazed long enough would see the true layer of the world. But at the same time, she warned, once you look, you cannot unsee, and not everyone can withstand the truth when it is no longer hidden by reality. A lengthy passage, nearly 5 pages, described the testimony lock ritual, where the practitioner must remain silent for 49 consecutive days, not speaking, writing, or recording, or risk the truth being fragmented and spilling out. The statue of a person with their mouth sewn shut found in the room was evidence of this ritual. In the journal, Danielle wrote, When Frank entered the room for the last time, he broke the silence. I don't blame him. But I had no choice. The final page shocked the entire investigative team, written in red ink with shaky, hurried handwriting, as though compelled by emotion. Frank has seen, I can't let it happen again. If I don't lock it, someone else will open it. And once it's opened, the world will never be the same. Accompanying this page was a hand-drawn map, marking the location called the Reflection Place in the Kentucky border region. Matching the coordinates of an ancient map the investigative team had discovered earlier. This sparked the theory that the activating ritual might have been performed there, and that Frank may have participated with Danielle in a pre-event ritual. A notable point was the list of mirror people that Danielle listed. Among them were the names of individuals who had appeared with her on seasons of American Pickers, even guests. Next to some names was a red-crossed spiral symbol. Investigators speculated these were people unfit or who had seen too much. The journal also revealed a previously undisclosed possibility. Danielle was not only the keeper of knowledge, but also the creator of rituals. She documented every step of designing the mirrors, how to arrange UV lights to reflect frequencies matching theta brainwaves, and how to blend essential oils to guide the consciousness into a state of waking coma, a state in theology referred to as awakening in illusion. a passage near the end regarded by experts as an anti-knowledge manifesto. We think the truth will set us free, but that is just a sweet lie. Truth doesn't free us. It only prevents you from ever sleeping peacefully again. The evidence in the journal combined with the physical evidence led the investigative team to conclude Danielle not only knew, but had actively designed the entire ideology and rituals occurring in her private living space, possibly to retain forbidden knowledge or conceal something deeper. The question remains unanswered. Did she truly believe in what she wrote? Or was it a result of an obsession with knowledge, paranoid delusions, or the influence of an ancient artifact? A neuroscientist in the investigation team stated, Danielle's mind can no longer distinguish between dream and reality, but that doesn't make what she created any less dangerous. On the contrary, it makes everything uncontrollable. And from the pages not meant for anyone else, a chilling conclusion was revealed. Frank Fritz may have died because he saw something he shouldn't have, and Danielle Colby as the gatekeeper allowed it to happen. 6. Psychological and scientific phenomena beyond explanation. Just 3 days after the FBI agents completed the seizure and transfer of all items from Danielle Colby's bedroom to the Langley Analysis Center, strange reports began to emerge. These reports did not come from the media, but from those who had directly handled the objects during the investigation process. A senior agent responsible for cataloging the artifacts had to be hospitalized after repeatedly feeling as though he was being watched through a mirror, even though no mirrors were present in the isolation room. One image analyst reported hearing a voice in his head while reviewing a video of the room search. Even a linguist in the document analysis team described experiencing prolonged insomnia and sleepwalking after handling a manuscript written in an unknown ancient script. As the situation grew more serious, the FBI invited a team of psychiatrists from Johns Hopkins to join the investigation. Dr. Elaine Roberts, a specialist in studying the effects of geometric signals on the brain, was the first to propose the concept of embedded archetype contagion. This phenomenon occurs when individuals come into contact with symbols that have a special structure, such as logarithmic spirals or fractal matrices, triggering a series of involuntary cognitive reactions that lead to obsessive thoughts, delusions, or the recall of memories that do not belong to the individual. She stated, I cannot confirm that these objects are cursed. However, it is clear that they have the power to influence the subconscious in ways that go far beyond the normal reflexive visual mechanisms. An internal report indicated that 6 out of 11 people involved in analyzing the artifacts had experienced similar dreams about the mirror room with no exit, where a woman meditated in the darkness with a mirror in front of her that constantly changed its reflection. The coincidence in these dreams led the research team to name this phenomenon memory resonance, a term previously mentioned in studies of collective amnesia during the medieval period. In a limited experiment, the experts placed a sample map from Danielle's room into a functional MRI scanner. When subjects who were unaware of the case looked at the map for 45 seconds, doctors noticed abnormalities in the activity of the middle temporal lobe, an area related to emotional memory and metaphorical imagery. One person commented, I felt like I was standing in a cave. I heard a voice inviting me in, but I didn't dare go. During further investigation, the team discovered a rolled-up parchment hidden behind a painting in Danielle's room. Inside was a schematic resembling an electrical diagram, but instead of technical symbols, there were ancient symbols arranged in spirals with the Latin inscription Resonantia Memoriae, echo of memory. This parchment described a method for connecting physical objects to collective memory through light, sound, and rituals. From here, a new hypothesis was proposed. Danielle's bedroom was a resonance device, a space capable of triggering perceptions that transcend time and language. Physicists from the U.S. Defense Department's Brainwave Research Institute, NINDS, were invited to join the study. They discovered an unusual low-frequency magnetic field in the room, oscillating at 4.3 Hz, a frequency that does not exist in either the electrical grid or natural waves. This frequency matched theta brainwaves, a state in which individuals can easily access deep memories, artistic inspiration, or even hallucinations. Dr. Mark Lowell from NINDS concluded, whether Danielle was aware of it or not, she had created a space capable of interacting with the consciousness of others. The issue is not one of belief or crime, but of structure. She had built a perception amplification device. From this perspective, every bizarre behavior of Danielle, from mirror rituals, writing journals in symbols to meditating at 3:33 a.m., was no longer just superstition. These were intentional technical actions aimed at adjusting perceptions and memories through spatial arrangement, sound, light, and objects. However, the consequences of these actions were undeniable. Those who had been in prolonged contact with the objects, including a photojournalist who secretly entered Danielle's home to take footage, reported insomnia, involuntary seizures, and auditory hallucinations. This individual stated, "I heard chanting even though there was no sound in the room. Every time I thought about the case, I felt like I wasn't myself anymore." In response to the increasingly severe effects, the FBI decided to isolate all the artifacts in a sensory isolation mode, where the items could only be accessed in a sterile white light environment, and individuals were not allowed to remain for more than 10 minutes. Reports on the effects continued to be monitored, and an interdisciplinary psychiatric research team began investigating the closed mirror reflection effect, based on footage of Danielle's rituals. At this point, the question was no longer simply, did Danielle kill Frank? But rather, what did Danielle come into contact with, and will it continue to affect others? Because if a room can alter the neurological structure of those who come into contact with it, then this case has gone beyond the boundaries of law, entering the realm of manipulated consciousness. And Danielle Colby, at this point, was no longer just a suspect, but the central figure in a surreal experiment that humanity had never been prepared to confront. 7. Danielle, guardian of secrets or victim of forbidden knowledge. When the case of Danielle Colby was moved from internal investigation to federal court, there was a clear division in public opinion, with journalists, scholars, and the public splitting into two camps. One side believed that she was a dangerous accomplice, who had deliberately manipulated esoteric rituals to control perception and indirectly caused the death of Frank Fritz. The other side, though quieter, was no less resolute, raising the question, did Danielle truly understand what she was holding in her hands? Or was she simply a victim drawn into a knowledge beyond her ability to control? A quote from her diary was repeatedly mentioned on research forums. "Not everyone should know, and I was wrong to let Frank see." These words did not come across as a confession, but more like a prayer not directed at people but at some invisible principle that she believed she had to protect. Dr. Marcus Elgin, an expert in esotericism and Western intellectual history at the University of Michigan, wrote in a commentary for The Atlantic, "Danielle is neither a guru nor a superstitious person. She is someone chosen by an ideology to guard it. And when the guardian begins to realize the truth, they are no longer human. They become a tool." Another hypothesis suggests that Danielle ceased to be herself after 2018, following the opening the eye and sleep ritual that she recorded. In internal psychological analyses, experts noticed a distinct change in her handwriting word choice, and even her facial expressions in interview videos from that time onward. One agent remarked, "I don't know if I should call it two personalities or two different frequencies of the same person." Whether a guardian or a victim, Danielle's silence has led to irreversible consequences. Frank Fritz, despite his underlying health issues, did not deserve to die in a state of ambiguity, surrounded by metaphors that no one but her could understand. Danielle chose silence, and thus the truth was buried with Frank until that bedroom was opened. Legally, the defense attorney argued, Danielle is not a murderer. She only kept something that no one was ever ready to access. However, from an ethical standpoint, the question remains unanswered. If knowing the truth could kill, but she still chose to keep it, does that constitute a crime at the federal detention center where Danielle is held awaiting trial? She does not meet with her lawyer weekly, does not call her family, and does not write letters requesting clemency. An employee at the facility revealed that Danielle requested only one special white paper and a pen to continue writing in a journal she calls the history not yet allowed to be remembered. Perhaps for Danielle, the societal verdict matters less than the verdict of the system of knowledge she believes she belongs to. And if that is the truth, if she is truly just someone chosen to keep a secret, then her tragedy did not begin with Frank Fritz's death. It began the moment she saw the truth and realized that no one was strong enough to bear that gaze, not even herself. From an independent icon in reality television to the center of an unprecedented mystical investigation, what did Danielle Colby hide behind the second-floor door? The strange mirror, Frank Fritz's voice echoing from a recording forbidden symbols, and the secrets of the Oculus Veritas Society all were revealed during the FBI's shocking search. The truth does not set you free, it only keeps you awake. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss the next part.